All right, folks, it is Monday, fresh week, brand new material, got a lot to discuss, a lot of things going on right now, and you're locked and loaded onto the hottest show on the streets, the number one forum for Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information, that being in my own words with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama magazine. As always, very excited to have each and every last one of you tuning into the network and channel on today as we do this from Tuscaloosa, streaming this to you via YouTube. Speaking of the channel, go ahead right now, give a thumbs up, a like on the show, hit that subscribe button, and turn all of those notifications on so that way you can have the best in news, notes, updates, alerts, and analysis on your favorite program, that being the Crimson Tide. Not only are we streaming this to you via YouTube, we're also coming at you on Facebook as well. So shouts out to all my Facebook people out there also. And speaking of Touchdown Alabama magazine, you can purchase individual copies of the magazine, have those sent to your door. Link will be found in the description. But like I mentioned, got a lot to unpack, a lot to discuss, a lot of conversation to go through, a lot of emotions to sort through. But we'll start things off by addressing the better half, the better man in the room, in the production studio. It's Monday. John Ivory, what's going on?
What's going on, Steven? What's going on, chat? Hey, we got a lot to talk about today. Is there going to be a season and people don't know what's going to happen? Make sure you share the show. Steven has a lot to talk about. We got a great show for you.
And we want you guys being a part of the conversation. We want your energy, your enthusiasm, your comments, your ideas, your concerns, your events. We want to hear from you today. And you can do this by calling 205-448-1358, the number to call to let your voice be heard on the show. Once again, that's 205-448-1358, and one more time, 205-448-1358. But we're going to jump now into the conversation of the players in the NCAA fighting for a college football season. Players in the SEC, players in the ACC, student athletes in the Big 12 fighting for a college football season. And I have always been an advocate of this. If you want something bad enough, you make it happen. Whether it's in your words, whether it's in your actions, if you want something bad enough, you make it happen. Case in point, during the time that we had the murders, the unfortunate murders of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor due to police brutality, racial injustice, things of that nature. When those murders happened, one of the first groups of people that spoke out, that used their social media platforms to have a conversation, to have a dialogue, to invoke change, to really put us in uncomfortable situations to air out this conversation were collegiate and professional athletes. College and pro athletes were the first groups to go to social media and have these conversations and have this dialogue. It's the same thing when you discuss the whole thing with the emblem on the flag and different monuments and buildings and plaques and possessions that had, racial tension, racial history, racial inequality and injustice. The first groups of people to speak out were these collegiate athletes. Whether it was Kylan Hill, the running back for Mississippi State, saying, "I will not play ball at this program unless this Confederate emblem, this Confederate flag is removed," or whether it was guys at the University of Alabama campus like Chris Owens, Byron Young, who stepped up, who used their platform to speak, and they got, buildings changed. They got monuments, plaques, boulders moved. Athletes have been speaking out about social injustice, about racial issues, about police brutality, for a minute now. They saw it as something that they needed to address. They saw it as something for them to use their platform. They spoke out about it, and they meant business. And now we're in a part where, or we're in a conversation where the Big Ten has decided to cancel its college football season due to the coronavirus pandemic. You've got the Pac-12 that's not that much far behind, and you've got the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC still trying to fight, still trying to hold on. And for a lot of us that feel like, and I know it's tough. It's a sticky, it's a rough, it's a situation that it's a slippery slope type of situation. Because while I understand public health, I understand public safety, I understand we got to protect players. We can't risk players, catching the virus, catching, COVID-19 and risk, things happening with their health. But seeing that the players want to play, that's the big thing. If the players did not want to play, if it was, I don't want to play, I don't need to play, I don't have to play, then it would be a completely different story. It would be a completely different ramification. This would be a completely different deck of cards. But because the players want to play, then this brings me to this topic right here. And it's, we have always said, we're for the players. We have the players' best interest at heart. We're about the players. If the players want to play, and seeing how it's the players that they control kind of this monopoly of college football. When you look at the new buildings going up, the new possessions going up, the infrastructure, the enrollment of students, all things that make up what college football is, it has been brought in, it has been produced, by these players. And while athletic directors, they're important. Chancellors are important. Presidents are important. Coaches are important. All of these things are important. But for you, the college football fan, for you, the Alabama football fan, for you, the consumer of college football, you dictate what's hot and what's not in this sport. And, for you guys, y'all pay y'all hard-earned dime in terms of ticket sales, in terms of buying memorabilia, in terms of getting these high-priced television packages to watch these games. Y'all pay y'all hard-earned dime, not for the coach, not for the AD, not for the president, not for the chancellor. Y'all pay y'all hard-earned dime to see these athletes. Y'all pay y'all hard-earned dime to see little Johnny throw a touchdown pass, to see little Timmy run between the tackles and break for the open for a score, to see Ricky over here, put route concepts on defensive backs and score touchdowns, to see defensive players make plays. The whole NCAA college football video game was for the players. It's the players that's getting the ADs paid, the coaches paid, the presidents paid, the chancellors paid. The players need to have a say in what's going on. If we are caring about the players, don't they deserve that right? Don't they deserve that final say-so in what they want to have in terms of a season? And just getting deeper into the players right here, what a job done by these student athletes. And I know for me, I take pride in covering the University of Alabama football program for Touchdown for TDA, and you guys as Bama fans, y'all take pride in enjoying the information that you get on the program. And I know we like to poke fun at different schools and other schools, and primarily you look at Clemson and the ACC with Dabo Swinney and Trevor Lawrence, but right now, you got to take your cap off to Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence of Clemson has done more for college football in one day than what Mark Emmert and the NCAA has done for quite some time. Trevor Lawrence has done more for college football in one day than what the NCAA has done for quite some time. And you look at Trevor Lawrence, you look at Justin Fields, you look at Kylan Hill. I mean, these are the three guys that have really gotten together and really kicked off this we want to play movement. We want to be on the field. We want to play. We want to have a season. Yes, it's risky to have it, but yes, it's also risky to not have it, just due to when you look at the situations of if you don't have a season, you look at players can catch the virus, anywhere. And, right now, if you're looking at these different collegiate football programs with the sports performance staffs and the athletic training and the team doctors, the football players, the coaches, the trainers, the doctors, these guys are all practicing, the guidelines of being safe. they're all practicing those guidelines. They're all keeping the players up to date. They're all keeping the players in flow. They're all keeping the players in the know. So if they're all keeping the players in the know and the players are keeping themselves in the know, then it's much safer, for those players being on the field, being in the athletic complex, being in the athletic facility, than just be over there roaming out and about. And just a thought right here, when you look at other sports entities that are playing right now, I know the NBA, the MLB, UFC fighting, MMA, golf, NASCAR, all of these other sport venues are different from college football. I get it. They're different from college football. But at the same time, they're playing. They are playing. And for the NBA, people thought Adam Silver was an absolute joke when he decided to take these players and put them in the heart of the coronavirus, in the equator of the virus, right there smack dab in the nucleus of the virus in a bubble in Orlando, Florida. People thought Adam Silver lost his doggone mind. But now it looks like Silver looks like the complete genius because there has not been a positive test within 1 or more months. There's been great action on the court. There's been great entertainment on the court. The players have been safe. The players are continuing to be tested. The players are in full protocol. Then you look at, MLB. Yes, there's been some flare-ups with the Miami Marlins, but the players are still out there. They're still playing. When you look at UFC, a sport where you are paid top dollar to intentionally, deliberately disfigure the face and body of your opponent, they're still out there playing. So if all of these different entities, yes, I get it, it's different from football, but if they're out there playing, if they're out there giving it a go, what is holding college football back is my question. And once again, if the players did not want to play, I can understand that. But because they want to play, they deserve that right. It is un-American to rip this from them, especially when they've worked so hard for it. I mean, it is not even just Lawrence, Kylan Hill, and Justin Fields, but you got a boatload of Alabama players: Mac Jones, Landon Dickerson, Christian Barmore, Christian Harris, Byron Young, Ale Cajo. The list goes on. That there are so many players that are saying, don't take this from us. We deserve this right to get out here, to get on the field. We feel safer on campus. We feel safer in this environment. We feel safer on the field. Our sports performance staffs, our strength and conditioning staffs, our team doctors have put us in a position where we can be safe to play on the field. And I have always been an individual. I've always been one to note this. The two words in the English language that are worse than profanities, that are worse than swear words, that are worse than cuss words, are the words "what if," because that means you did not get it done, but that also means you allowed something to grip you, to turn you, to prevent you from pursuing purpose or prevent you from what you've always wanted to do. There's a risk in everything. There's a risk in playing the sport, absolutely, but there's also a bigger risk in not playing the sport. And I'm going to dive more into that in the second segment of this conversation, but there's a risk either way. But for these players that have seriously been on the grind all summer long, and for the different conferences to say, okay, we're going to have a conference-only schedule, right? A 10-game conference-only schedule. You put the schedules together. You put the teams together. You have all of this put together. And then to go right back around and sort of pull the cover, to pull the bed, to pull the couch, to pull the mattress right from under these individuals after they've worked so hard, and them to fall on their face because you don't want to have it. Completely despicable to me. Completely un-American to me. Once again, If the players were not for it, if they did not want to play, that's one thing. But because they do, their opinions, their thoughts, their notion needs to be taken into consideration, because without the players, there's no college football. Without the players, there's no profitability, there's no entertainment, there's no marketability, there's no fun. It's the players that make the sport what it is. And I feel like if we say we're taking the players' best interest at heart, it's time for us to step up and hear these young men. We're going to take our first break here on the show, but don't touch that dial, just getting started. Upon our return, we get into your phone calls, your thoughts, your tweets, your questions, your concerns. How are you feeling right now about all this that's going on? We'll be back after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwill Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care. In support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwillsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We're back in from the break, folks, on a Monday, hottest show on the street, starting off your work week, in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Appreciating you guys for checking us out on today, as it is your time, Tide Nation, 205-448-1358. And I'm going to call in to let your voice be heard, because we got to hear from you. 205-448-1358 here. But we got to shout out Senator Hines for sending in that $9.99 through the super chats on YouTube. Appreciate Senator Hines for showing us that love there. But we take our first call on today. You're live here on the show. What's on your mind? How are you feeling right now?
What's going on, Steven? And appreciate the shout out, man. You know, I've become a real big fan of the show, man. Like, I've been following you for a little over a year now, and I was like, this guy's consistent. The whole staff up there, TDA, is consistent. You, Justin Smith. Then I get on the chat, on the live, and see Waylon and everybody going in, man, and Waylon with the polls, man. It's just like, I love it, man, and I appreciate you taking my call again today, man. But overall, man, this whole situation with the pandemic and players, you know, possibly losing the season, you know, I think ultimately, yes, we're concerned about everyone's health, not just the players, but everyone that's involved, because you got to think it's more than just the players. You have medical staff, you have coaches families that, you know, coaches have to go back home to. You have the staff family, you have ADs. All these different people are tied into these decisions. And I ultimately think it should be left up to them, you know, especially when we talk about the games being played. There are kids who get waivers and stuff signed, you know, that have skin diseases and other things that, you know, go through all these different precautions to be protected on the field that are cleared to play. You know, at any time, those precautions can be, you know, capped or can be, you know, removed because of a simple play, and somebody can be exposed to another disease. So ultimately, we're taking a risk every time we wake up in the morning. These players are taking a risk every time they go out on the field to be in contact with something their body has never been encountered with before, whether it's an injury or whether it's a virus or something. So ultimately, I'm with you. I think the players should have most of the say-so, not most of it, 100% of the say-so, whether they want to play or not. And if you don't have enough, then to productively go forward with competitive football, then that's when you make a general decision on the you know, with the student tie level, you know, guys that are sitting behind the scenes just pushing papers and stuff. But ultimately, the players should have a decision. And
Absolutely,
that's what I got to say about that.
Absolutely, Senator. And what's crazy is Me and John Ivory were actually having this conversation before we even got on the show, and John kind of brought an idea to my attention about, because the players want to play, and you brought up the waiver idea, have the players fill out a waiver that should you contract the virus, the school should not be held accountable. Have the players fill out a waiver. I know Najee Harris has recently agreed he would sign a waiver. He's perfectly fine with doing that, and he would not sue the University of Alabama if he was to come in contact and contract the virus. So that's an idea. Have the players, sign a waiver for those that do want to play.
And at the end of the day, it's not just the players. Like we have to continuously remind everyone, just because a football player is out on the field doesn't heighten his risk playing football and getting in contact with other people, sweat, whatever it is, exchanging body fluid, whatever it is, that doesn't heighten the risk of them contracting the virus. A person, leaving their home, going to Walmart, walking around in Walmart without a mask on is just as high a risk based off the current studies. We don't know what can happen. And just like Coach Saban said, until we encounter something that causes for another shutdown, that's when we should be making those decisions on that level to counsel all of college football. But to totally wipe out the players to have an opportunity to do that, what they've been working so hard their whole life to push towards, and that's to be an NFL player, health risks are always a concern growing up playing any type of sport or doing anything high intense activity. So the decision should be left up to the players. I'm going to side with that. And it's not that I don't care about people's health and livelihood, but we all can make our own decisions. Nobody's making us do anything. So if they want to decide to do that, or use their free will to play football, to continue to be out there with knowing, being educated on the risk, then by all means, let them do it. Let them do it.
Appreciate the phone call, man, the passion behind it. Keep listening to us.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate you.
We're continuing with the phone lines here on a Monday. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on? Kenneth, what's going on?
What's up, Steven?
Doing good, man. Doing good. It's crazy.
Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I love my Alabama football. I love it. But if it's going to affect lives of people, I do not need it. Kids are going to come and play football and be in the locker room and get that virus and take it home to their grandma, and their grandmas are going to be sick. Their lives will be lost behind this. I just want y'all to understand that. Because you can't tell college kids not to go to bars, not to go to clubs. They're going to go.
They gonna go, true.
So how can they're going to go? They're going to get the virus. They're going to spread it to their family. So are we choosing football over family now? That's all I need to know. Are we choosing football over family?
So this is what I would propose here. I would propose to have a bubble-like environment for the players on the campus. So, for example, I would have either the Malmore facility or the sports science building, sports science center, one of those two. Keep players in there, have them controlled in there, so that way you can continue to test those players. They can continue to get the strength treatments, the conditioning, all the treatments they do, but have some players quarantine, have that bubble environment there. And then on top of that, you can make a bubble environment out of Bryant Hall on campus due to the fact that players may only be in class once or twice a week. Once more so than twice, they're going to have to do more so online learning. So you keep players at Bryant Hall where they can have, their living arrangements there, make sure they're getting the food, make sure they're getting their academic studies up, things on that nature. So designating different bubble environment areas on campus to keep an account of where the players are.
See, that I can live with. But I don't be wanting them, because when they're not in the facility, they're going to be around other people. They're going to contract the virus. It is what it is until we get a vaccine. I just don't want it going back to those parents and grandmas who raised them, Steven. That's all I want. I want them to be safe.
I understand that. I understand that.
So if they can bubble it, it's gonna be hard because college kids, man. You know, you the college kids once, Steven. You know how they is, man.
Oh yeah, but Kenneth, we appreciate the passion, man, and the call, man, and keep listening to us.
All right, now y'all have a good day. Roll Tide.
All right, we got some passionate calls coming in here on a Monday. You're live on In My Own Words. What's on your mind today?
What up, Steven? This is Caleb. I'm in Memphis.
What's going on, Caleb?
I was giving you a call to give my 2 cents about the virus. You know, I'm looking at it. I'm seeing all these tweets from these student athletes saying, you know, I don't want to go home. I feel safer in the complex at the university, you know, in the sports science buildings. And to all the people that are saying that, you know, we shouldn't play football, that's going to give the kids the virus. Well, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. Like people have been saying, they're going to go out. You have just a chance of getting out on the football field as you do in your local grocery store, or, you know, they're going to go out to bars. But at what point do we stop living in this fear and we stand up and we try something? Because at this point, you know, it's looking like the world's not going back to normal. It's looking like we're on our knees and we're just going to sit down and take it. And that's what life's about. You got to take risks. And, you know, I just don't see the point in completely canceling a football season just because of straight fear. You know, the virus is everywhere. It's not like it's just explicitly on a football field. And more than that, I think it should be up to the players. I mean, you've heard that a million times today. You've heard it from sports writers. They don't have a voice, unfortunately, like the NFL does, for example, a commissioner. But it just doesn't make sense to me that we would cancel the football season whenever these kids are going to go out and do what they're going to do anyway. They've worked their tail off, man, all off season. They've grinded. They sweat. They put the work in. They're trying to get out there, improve themselves, and do what they came to do that school for, get an education, play football, and maybe have a dream to go to the NFL. That's just my 2 cents. I wonder what your thoughts about that, man, because, you know, everybody, I'm just ready for the world to stop being in fear, be smart, be attentive, but that you can't live in fear. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree with that. And just, you know, my thoughts on the whole situation, you got a lot of young athletes that do not want to go back home. And the reason why they don't want to go back home, and I'm going to dive into more of this in the second part of the conversation here, is you got athletes that come from the roughest of the rough environments. College saves a lot of athletes. Football saves a lot of athletes. For these young men, sometimes it's either I do sports, or if I get sent back home and I know what type of environment I come from, and I know what type of environment that I'm a part of or that produced me, I'm faced with 1 to 2 options. Not every athlete feels this way, but there are a few that feel like I'm stuck with 1 to 2 options. It's either football or I go to a life of crime. It's football or I'm selling drugs. It's football or I'm doing drugs. It's football or I'm robbing folks' houses. I'm breaking into folks' stuff, because you got mamas out there, single mamas, even moms and dads and full households together. They put their children in sports at a young age because those parents know if my child ever gets an idle mind, this could be really bad. This could be really, really, really bad. So I agree with your point there on be smart. You can't live in fear. But I also say this, a lot of these athletes know if I go home, I'm faced with a very rough situation. But, man, we appreciate the call. Keep listening to us.
Yes, sir. Y'all take it easy. Roll Tide.
Absolutely. Continuing with the call segment on a Monday, you're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
And what's going on, Steven?
Doing good, man. Doing good. And yourself?
Man, it's a lot to unpack, man. I've been listening to what everybody's been saying, and you know, I've been kind of following what's been going on all day long, man. And I'm just gonna keep it 100 with everybody that's listening, and just, you know, you can agree or disagree, don't really matter to me, but you know what I'm saying, like, it's really unfortunate that a lot of the politics and the bureaucracy with all this stuff is kind of impacting and affecting what everything is going on. Because the way I see it is, you know, you got all these, we call them kids, but these is grown men by the letter of the law. You know what I'm saying? You know, 18 and up. And they old enough to go fight in the war, but they're not old enough to make a decision on whether their life is. And I understand people saying that the virus, can spread or whatever, but they didn't figure out all these other measures to have. I seen online where they was having travel with soccer or softball or whatever, and with no issues over the summer. But when it comes to the politics and the schools and everything, now everybody got a problem with the young men that's trying to make a career out of what they're trying to do. And that don't sit right with my soul, Stephen. Like I said, I kind of heard what you was talking to with the last caller and everything, but anytime politics is involved, and I don't really want you to have to go into all that when you answer your question, but I'm just telling you what I feel. You know what I'm saying? Because this whole thing could have been settled a long time ago if the NCAA would have just allowed these schools and the conferences to make the decisions and allow the players to make the decisions a long time ago. You could set the measures up so that people have a safe environment. It's been 7 months from March until August. That's 5 months. You know what I'm saying? And you telling me the NBA and everybody else can figure out, but all these folks that are making millions of dollars in the NCAA and SEC, ACC, all these presidents and athletic directors and coaches, nobody can come together and figure out a solid plan to make sure that these kids are set to be able to play a season. And you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated with how things is going. I kind of feel a little bit better, at least about the SEC, because we might still move forward. But what about all the smaller conferences? Some of these kids, they long shots to make it, and they need a senior year to be able to showcase themselves. And that's the problem that I got, because even Joe Burrow, I seen a story where he put out something saying that he may not even been the number 1 overall pick if there had not been a season last year. So who could be the next Joe Burrow this year? Maybe it's Matt Jones. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have a whole lot going on last year, except for when Tua went down and everybody was able to see him. But he starts this year, and if he has a great year, maybe he's a first-round draft pick. But if he doesn't play this year, maybe he doesn't even get drafted. So I feel for guys like that. I feel for all the guys whose seasons is canceled, and they got to try to figure out what to do in the spring. I don't see how that's going to work, but I don't know. I'm just venting. I'm just a little frustrated, and I just want to express my thoughts, and I just feel for these young men, and I just feel like if they just take the politics out, you let these guys, they can enlist in the military and risk their lives for the country, but they can't even, risk a very small risk of contracting something and a very small risk of spreading it. If we can all figure out a way to bottle it all up, we got enough smart people that make a lot of money to figure this thing out. And that's all I got to say.
Appreciate the passion and the opinion there on that statement. Call back in the second segment, man, because I want to dive into that a little bit more. But we're going to continue with the calls here on In My Own Words. You're live on the show. What's going on? Well, we're going to continue with the calls here. In the second call segment, we're going to take a break right now on the show, but continue to light us up in the phone lines, 205-448-1358. Also light us up in the YouTube chat line with your thoughts, questions, and opinions there. For everybody that's in the call-in queue, hold on. For everybody that's in the call-in queue, call back in the second call segment. Everybody in the call-in queue, call back in that second call segment, 205-448-1358. Definitely want to hear your thoughts and opinions. But upon our return, I'm going to get into why college football means so much to these athletes. We'll get into it after this.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry. Delivery is also available through Waiver and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We are back into the action here, folks, from the break on a Monday. Hottest show on the streets, number one forum for Crimson Tide football. News, notes, and information in my own words with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Got the man John Ivory in the production studio trying to fight for college football. I mean, players in the SEC, ACC, Big 12, all fighting to have a season. Big 10 has canceled the season. Pac-12 may not be too far behind. And you look at, why is college football, or why college football is so important to these young athletes. And so first and foremost, we're going to look at Coach Saban. Alabama head football coach Coach Saban made a statement today on ESPN. Of course, we all saw it about how he understands the situation that we're in as a country, but he wants to play for these players. He wants to play for these players. He wants to play with these players, especially when you discuss the hard work and the effort these young men have put in. He touched on how, the players are going to feel more safer and are going to be more safer on the campus and in these facilities, versus going out and about and at home and in different, grocery stores and other areas. Coach Saban feels like the players are going to be way more accounted for in terms of being on the campus here at the University of Alabama. I've even had the idea or stated the idea of having, bubble delegated areas on the campus, whether it's the Malmore Complex or the Sports Science Center or even, Bryant Hall, just having different areas where you can keep players there, test players there, quarantine players there, making sure that you got a head count of every single individual. But before we get into the dangers of not having a college football season, I'm going to say this. I identify with a lot of these players myself. And the reason why I identify with a lot of these players myself is not all of them come from these areas, but a few of these athletes come from the ghetto of ghettos. They come from the project of projects. As the young people say nowadays, they get it out the mud. Some of these players come from underneath the mud. That's the environment they hail from. They hail from underneath the mud. And for me, I grew up in Perry County. I grew up in Marion, Alabama. Perry County is the second poorest county in the state of Alabama. No joke. Look it up. No joke. Second poorest county in the state of Alabama. So Perry County, being from Marion, there's no industry there. No Walmart, no skating ring, no McDonald's, no type of industry in Marion, Alabama. None. We maybe have 1 to 2 grocery stores, one good one at best. And for a lot of the youth that graduate from the high school, they immediately leave the city because in their mind, heck, I ain't going back there. Because if I go back to Marion, I'm looking at 2 things. I look at I go to a life of crime. I'm in drugs, selling them, doing them, dealing them, or I'm breaking into houses, breaking into buildings, breaking in, stealing stuff, or I fall back into the background of the city, which that means you're just coasting. You're going day to day with no type of ambition, no type of get up and go, no type of drive, no type of intensity, no type of no type of understanding what you want to do in life. And you got quite a few athletes that are from those backgrounds, and they know if I get sent back home, I know it's waiting for me. College football saves me from a lot of this stuff. And when you look at Nick Saban, he has kept a lot of players from falling through the cracks. You look at Scooby Carter. helped position him, to JUCO. I mean, think about it. Scooby Carter is probably from the rough side of Texas. Think about last year. If this sort of thing happened last year and Scooby Carter couldn't have played football last year, what would have happened to Scooby Carter? Think about a lot of these young athletes at Alabama where if this would have happened last year and it couldn't have played football last year, the types of things that they would have probably ended up succumbing to. Now, I believe these athletes are strong young men. They're strong people. They're strong individuals of society. But when that peer pressure hits, it's a different story. It's a different story. Believe you me, I know. I've grown up with people in my hometown that strong people, strong individuals had their own mindset, but for some reason, some way, somehow, failed to peer pressure, and the trajectory that they were supposed to go to in life, they did not meet that because of the peer pressure, because of undesirable situations, undesirable circumstances that happened. Why? They came back home to a place where they knew, if I come back here, there is no hope, there is no opportunity, there is no shot for me. For Alabama fans out there, we all remember Rolando McClain. Rolando McClain at Alabama, the guy was a beast. The guy was a monster. The guy was an animal. The guy had a photographic memory. Nick Saban could put a formation on the board, have a new play drawn up. It would take other linebackers years to get the play down. Rolando McClain, check my drip, coach. Bang, got it. But when Rolando McClain would go home to Decatur, Alabama, that's where his troubles would always ensue. If he stayed on campus, if he stayed focused with the program, if he just, distanced himself from home, it could have been a completely different story. But going back to that type of environment, it always got him. It always hurt him every single time. So when you look at just the dangers these athletes face if they are forced to be sent home and not have a season, first and foremost, they go back to places where there is very little to no health care. On the campuses, these schools, these programs, they have health care. And not just any old health care, they got the best health care. So being there on those campuses, they're getting around-the-clock checkups, around-the-clock treatments, around-the-clock appointments, around-the-clock, visits where these team doctors are testing them, making sure they're okay. I mean, you even got Dr. Matt Ray, the director of performance science here at Alabama. He's frustrated by all the COVID paranoia. He has spoken out and said, can you just trust us? Can you just trust the team doctors? We're getting paid to make sure these young men stay okay. We're getting paid to make sure we test these young men. We're getting paid to make sure we track the totality of this individual. So they go home, you run the risk of going back to an environment where, very little health care when you talk about mom and dad or whomever the guardian is for these athletes. So very little to no health care. But number two thing that you risk right here, if the athletes were to be, sent back home, is once again, if they're sent back home, they run that risk of contracting COVID and passing it on to other family members, other friends, other people. Why? Once again, it goes back to the very little to no health care in that environment versus the programs that they're in have the health care, have the means to make sure that the players are being attended to. The third thing, and this is a big one here, if players were to miss this whole season, it's going to be very, very hard for their stock in terms of the NFL draft to be taken seriously. At the end of the day, these athletes, they want to go pro. they want to go pro. The reason why they picked up that football in the first place at 3, 4, 5 years old in the backyard with pops, in the backyard with uncle, in the backyard with big cousin, in the backyard with coaches, the reason why these young men picked up a football, they had dreams, goals, ambitions, thoughts of, hey, if I'm good, and lo and behold, if I'm darn good at this, I get a chance to play Division I football. I get a chance to one day go play in the NFL and change the whole paradigm and change the whole dynamic and change the whole perception of my family. I can tell my folks, you see the hood right there? Turn away from it, folks. I got the bank for us. I got the bank for us. And now we can transition out of this hole we in, and I can put y'all in a better situation. If these players miss a full year, these NFL scouts, these NFL analysts, they become very, very skeptic. These NFL teams, these coaches, these GMs, these owners, they become very skeptic because now they're going, wait a minute, they missed a whole year. How good are they really? Are they as good as what they were when they were playing? Have they lost a step? Have they lost a burst? Have they lost the technique? Have they lost the discipline? You now put the owners, GMs, and coaches in a bind because they don't know what the heck type of player they're getting because the player missed the whole season. And you're not the same player if you miss a whole season versus what you were when you played. You're not the same guy. So, number 3, you run that risk. And then last but not least, number 4. Fourth thing you kind of risk here is if these students return back home, if these athletes return back home, and I mentioned this before, you go to that life of crime, you go to that life of, and you know what's going on in those cities. These athletes know what's going on in those environments. They know what's going on. So that's why you have guys like Kylan Hill at Mississippi State that's scared to go back home because he knows I go back home to Mississippi, I'm getting killed. People getting killed. People getting hurt. People getting damaged. People, not doing the things that they need to do. So you're risking a whole bunch of things here, sending these athletes home. Last thing I mention here before we go to break is where we are as a country, there is a lot of fear, chaos, confusion, frustration, negativity. We need sports now more than ever because in sports, we're getting taught love, teamwork, togetherness, toughness, appreciation. Sports is dire. And we need that now more than ever because of where we are right now as a society. Shouts out to Willie351 for donating $5 during the super chat. But upon our return from the break, we get into more of your phone calls, your thoughts, your tweets, your questions, your concerns after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We're back in, folks, from the break here. Hottest show on the streets on a Monday, starting your work week off right, in my own words. Doing a little fighting here for college football. Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Once again, special shout out to Willie351, one of our faithful listeners in the YouTube chat line, donating that $5 via the super chats to TDA. But it's back on you, Tide Nation. 205 205-448-1358. 205-448-1358. You may not agree with me, but I just want to know, what are you feeling? What is going through your mind? This is your time to discuss, talk, vent, have a conversation. We go to the phone lines right now. We pick up Kyle. Kyle, you're live on In My Own Words. What's going on? Live on the show, Kyle. What's going on? Kyle, you there?
Hey, it's Justin from the Sportscast. Hey,
Oh.
can you hear me?
Yeah, Justin Riley. What's going on, man?
Man, it's been a long time since we talked. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just it's a fight, man, for college football. We see the players in the SEC, players in the Big 12, ACC with the hashtag We Want to Play movement. There's even an attorney who's got involved, Mr. Jason Schechter, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not pronouncing his name wrong there, but he's even gotten involved with addressing these letters to Commissioner Sankey and the ACC commissioner and Mark Emmert of the NCAA. These players are serious about wanting football.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day, it's got to be their decision. And I don't think it's anybody else's decision but them. I don't think that powers that be outside them can tell them, hey, this is what you're supposed to do with your life. But right now, society, the main problem with society right now is everybody is operating out of panic and fear, and they're basing their decisions off of what is trending rather than actually using thought and logic behind it. And I think that's kind of what's driving everybody's paranoia and anger when it comes to college football. Like a caller said previously, just because they're on the football field, that doesn't automatically give them COVID or means that they're going to pass away because of playing the sport.
Absolutely, and I go back to what Dr. Matt Ray mentioned. I mean, Dr. Ray on Twitter a couple of days ago was infuriated by this is what he does. Dr. Matt Ray has been in performance science, since 2001. He launched a company that specializes in things like this, and he's just adamant about, can people just trust the team doctors and what they're doing to make sure that these players are staying safe, that they are being tested. We have them in a situation where they are at the least likely to contract the virus because we're keeping a head count, or we're keeping our eyes on those guys.
Oh, exactly. See, you mentioned a very key point. They're in a protected environment full of professionals that know what they're doing. And some people may be using the argument that, well, all these players return to campus here, whether it's Clemson, Alabama, LSU, name it, and 30 or more players contracted the virus. Well, yeah, because they were all over God's green earth doing whatever away from the university. Now they're in a protected environment where things are being monitored, things are being watched, they're being protected.
And here's the big thing. Going back to something that Coach Saban mentioned, in his interview with ESPN, ever since 4th of July weekend, there's only been a 2% positivity rate in terms of COVID virus testing where the players are concerned. So the number at one point in time that had people concerned about, well, today we had 3 people test positive, now 5 people, now it's up to like 13 people. But ever since the 4th of July, Saban has said, look, we've gotten a handle on this thing to where it's now less than 5% of our players testing positive.
Right, absolutely. But people still want to base what their decisions are on fear and panic rather than looking at logic. And logic is being put in front of us. It's just nobody wants to acknowledge it. And one thing I want to talk about, you mentioned before I even got a chance to call, was you've got these players who are scared to go back to their environments that they are trying to escape. And I think putting them in a position to where they're away from the accountability, the protection, and the great atmosphere of school and send them back to these places that they want to escape and need to escape, I just don't think that that's a good idea.
Absolutely, Justin. But man, we appreciate the phone call, your thoughts, your ideas of what you had to say, man. Hey, continue to keep listening to us.
Absolutely, man. Roll Tide.
Appreciate that call there from Justin Riley. We continue on the phone lines. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, this is Eric from Dallas, Georgia.
All right, Georgia in the house. What's going on, man?
Hey, nothing much, man. I just wanted to speak on a couple of things. I'm hearing a lot of callers, and like you said, it's going back and forth. I guess one of my main things is that at the end of the day, a lot of players, a lot of fans don't want to talk about it, but it's about the money. If college, I want you to put this in perspective. If the college football season is canceled, I want to give you a number. That's about $4 billion worth of revenue, ticket sales, all of that good stuff. That's gone down the drain, right? And when you look at your first and second quarters of this year, it's all been lost. So now we need the college football season to happen, right? So, I understand that these players, they want to play, and now all of a sudden now the universities and the fans, we're gonna listen to the players because they want to play. Well, what happened to the players when they wanted to get paid? How much money has the NCAA made off of players for how many years? And they want to get paid, right? We're not listening to them when it comes to that, but when it comes to playing football, we're A-okay with that, right? And then the next point is let's not let the players go back home. Let's keep them in a bubble. Have them going to school. Don't let them go back to these places that of crime and maybe getting killed. But how about they don't play football, but they're still able to stay in the bubble, still stay safe? I think sometimes, we want football to happen because guess what? We don't want to think about all of this stuff that's happening, that's coming into light, all the racial injustices and the police brutality, like you said before, that's going on in our communities and that's been going on. So we look to football as a distraction. We all know that's what it is, okay? It's a distraction. So if money is going to be missed out, because I'm telling you, it's about $4 billion that's going to be missed out if college football is canceled. You don't think these universities want these players to play? Of course they want them to play. They need that revenue. So if we're slow to pay them, then why are we so quick to have them play then? I'll hang up and listen to you talk about that, Steven. Hey, always good to listen to you, man. Thank you. Roll Tide, brother.
Appreciate the thoughts there from Eric out of Dallas, Georgia. That's a good point because the players have been wanting to get paid for a long time. They've wanted to get paid for a long time. They've wanted a stipend. They've wanted to have their work appreciated. And I know for a lot of people, it's with their own scholarship, but the scholarship doesn't cover everything. The scholarship does not fulfill everything. And some players don't even have a full scholarship. They have what's called a renewable scholarship, which means if they're not performing up to the way that the coaches or people want them to perform, then that renewable scholarship is taken away from them. So I get exactly where Eric is coming from with that statement. But we continue the phone calls here in the queue. You're live here on In My Own Words on a Monday. What's going on?
What's up, Steven? This is Sean from Huntsville.
What's going on, Sean?
Nothing much, man. I wanted to offer my quick perspective real quick, man. I offer my perspective from a former college athlete myself right here at HCBU, Alabama A&M University, right here in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm the very kid you described. That was me coming from those kind of areas. I was fortunate enough to have a great senior year and garner some interest from Tuskegee, Alabama A&M, and Jacksonville State. Picked A&M because my mother went there. So I do know what you mean, man. The guy you speaking of is me. I'm fortunate enough to be able to teach this game I learned to kids now. But as far as what the last caller called, my perspective on that is he's 1,000% correct, man. And for those of you that don't really know what it is to play college football at any level, it's one thing that's always common, no matter if it's Division I, Division I AA. The scholarship helps you, especially with your education. It pays for your books. It does all these great things. But as an 18 to 22-year-old kid, you really don't see the necessities in that until you graduate. When you come from a home like I came from, where your mom working 2 jobs and couldn't afford but to send you for $20 a week, at some point in time at 11, 12 o'clock at night, you get hungry, you get tired of asking your teammates, can I borrow a pack of oodles and noodles? You get embarrassed to ask them because they are going out having a good time. You have nothing but lint in your pocket. But you see your jersey hanging in the bookstore when you walk onto the campus. Everybody buying that jersey. The bookstore, maitre d' is making $400 or $500 every couple of hours off that jersey, and you got 12 cents in your pocket. It's a horrible feeling. No money to take your girlfriend out, no money. And when you come from these families, this is the reality of it. That's why you see a lot of these people leave school as juniors. I know people that's well off and blessed enough to have nice fat bank accounts when they come to college don't understand what I'm saying, but it's a large amount of players that were like me. We broke together, you know what I mean? But we go out here in the stadium and make y'all $2 or $3 million every Saturday, and we have nothing. I mean, you say, well, you're getting your education, and you're right. I won't front on that. I'm getting paid now because of my education, but that education, those benefits don't kick in for about 3.5 years. And I'll tell this story real quick because the only reason I use names because I heard Jay Barker used it. David Palmer was from Birmingham, Alabama. David Palmer, number 2, Papa Cherry. That was him, straight from J.O. High School. Jay Barker said on holidays, David Palmer wouldn't even want to go home because there was no food in the house. He'd rather stay on campus. There was a large amount of our teammates. I know people on that team right now that come from those same environments. And you have people like Greg McElroy who said, well, no, the education is this, and you should never get paid, this, that, and the third. Greg McElroy's father was an employee, an executive for the Dallas Cowboys, played at South Lake Carroll, came from a very, very, very fortunate background. So people like that will never understand, man. And I'll end with this. We're not saying give us $20,000 a month. What the athlete is saying is, break me off a stipend, man. Give me $1,200 a semester, $1,300 a semester off the scholarship. The scholarship has not changed since I played in the mid-'90s, bro, to late '90s. The scholarship is the exact same, but the cost of living increases as far as paying for books and things of that nature. The NCAA is making an absolute killing on these kids, and a lot of these kids have. I'm telling you guys, this is not a lie. What I'm telling you, a lot of these kids are struggling. That's why they're so quick to leave school so fast. A lot of these kids don't even want to go pro, but they feel like they have to. They see their mom struggling. They see their teammates doing well, buying pairs of shoes, this, that, and the third. And I'm sitting over here with $12 in my pocket, but I'm making you a couple of million every Saturday, and I can't even afford a bowl of chili. It's not fair, brothers. It's not fair. Roll Tide to you, Steven. And as always, I ain't going to listen. We'll continue to support.
Good point there from Sean. Good call there from Sean. And it's like I mentioned, that stipend is all the players want. That stipend's it, whether it's $1,200, $1,300, whatever the case may be. Have a stipend for these players. And I've always been in support of that because, like I mentioned, I've had the fortunates to cover this program since 2009, and some of the players that have come through this program, I have made friendships with these guys, and a lot of them did not have full scholarships. A lot of them had renewable scholarships, and even the ones that had full scholarship still was not enough. I went to high school with players that made it big in playing, either college, that made it big in playing either college football or college basketball, and they would come back home to Marion like this scholarship just ain't cutting it. Like, what am I going to do? So I agree with that point that Sean put in. Appreciate Sean and also Eric from Dallas, Georgia for waiting patiently as we got to their call. We got another call here in the queue, and we thank this caller for waiting patiently. You're live on the show. What's going on?
What's going on, Steven? I talked to you a little bit earlier. Caleb again from Memphis, Tennessee. I heard you say something on your show that kind of resonated with me a little bit about, the kids that you're essentially breaking, family generational curses by being the first one to get to that next level, being the first one to make something of yourself. And, Joe Burrow was a prime example of that. Nobody was going to draft that man number 1 overall. I mean, he came into LSU, sure, he was a 3-4 star, whatever he may be. But if he didn't have that season, he said it himself on his Twitter. He said he's going to be looking for a job right now. That man could be working at Taco Bell for all we know. He's the number 1 overall, making millions of dollars, playing for Cincinnati. So think about, I don't think the big suits are realizing what all it actually is going to affect if this season does not happen in terms of eligibility. That's a whole nother demon to tackle. I mean, what about all the seniors? Dylan Moses, Smitty. What are they going to do? What about the juniors? Are they going to bail in 2021 and go straight to the draft? I mean, you got so many unknowns, so many questions that if this gets canceled, you just don't have the answers for. And for all we know, I mean, there's a kid out there who could be a baller, and he could go number one. He could come from a poor community, poor family, make a name for himself. But if this season gets canceled, that's not going to happen. And Dylan Moses, think about Dylan, man. Think about, you know his attitude, his personality. He's been grinding, been rehabbing, doing all he could for the past 2 years. That's crushing him, man. So I want to get on the eligibility thing is another huge topic to me. I don't understand how they're going to work that out, but it's devastating.
I know right now the one thing that the players are pushing for, especially in the law documents that they have for for Commissioner Sankey, the commissioner of the ACC, and also the NCAA, the players want two things. Number one, they want a COVID waiver. So what this means is if there comes a situation where players may miss a few games because they contracted the virus, or if it's a situation where you have to postpone the season or start the season and stop middle of the way through, what the COVID waiver does is it allows the 2020 to 2021 athletic year, because of the unprecedented time that we're in, that year will not count against the eligibility. That year will not take from the eligibility of the players. So they want that COVID waiver. The second thing the players are asking for is the immediate implementation of the transfer rule. And that's if there's a situation where, a school in a respective conference decides, hey, we're going to cancel the season. We're not going to play football, especially if this particular student athlete is a year before graduation, then that athlete has the opportunity to transfer elsewhere that's playing football and immediately play. So that's the two things that these players want. But, man, we appreciate the call. Keep listening to us.
Yes, sir. Y'all stay safe and stay positive, man. I love what you're doing.
Absolutely. We also want to encourage you guys out there, if you want to leave a voicemail, you can leave a voicemail, 205-448-1358. Once again, if you want to leave a voicemail on the show, you can leave that voicemail, 205-448-1358. You can also text with that same number, 205-448-1358. But we definitely appreciate the phone calls. You guys have been lighting us up with your thoughts, your concerns, your ideas, your passion for college football. Also appreciate you guys lighting us up there in the YouTube chat line. But we go to a couple of topics here. First and foremost, how about Henry Ruggs? How about Henry Ruggs III, former Alabama wide receiver, former 5-star out of Montgomery, Alabama. And, for Henry Ruggs, got drafted number 12 overall back in April to the Las Vegas Raiders. And in this video, he's making a one-handed touchdown grab, a one-handed athletic touchdown grab in training camp from one Derek Carr. I'm telling you this right now. John Gruden, Mike Mayock, they're tickled pink. They believe they got the right guy. They got the right pick to start the first round of the recent NFL draft. That is, Henry Ruggs, a guy that is making this, huge vertical, being able to spin around, catch the football, one hand. We saw the 4.27 blazing 40 time in the NFL Combine. We saw the freakish 42-inch vertical at the event also. This young man putting both of those attributes on display here in this video. And keep your eyes on Ruggs. I know Judy's playing for the Denver Broncos. They're both playing against each other in the wild AFC West. But keep your eyes there on Henry Ruggs. That young man is going to be a fun individual to see on the football field. But along with that, how about one Courtney Upshaw? Former Alabama linebacker Courtney Upshaw, two-time BCS national champion, an SEC champion, a Super Bowl champion with the Baltimore Ravens in 2012. He appeared in another Super Bowl matchup in 2016 as a member of the Atlanta Falcons going up against those New England Patriots. But Courtney Upshaw is going to the coaching ranks. He is now in the coaching ranks as a volunteer coach for the UAB Blazers in Birmingham. Big news there. Congratulations to one Courtney Upshaw as this continues the whole Nick Saban mindset of, look, football's great, but football is not going to last forever. We want you to be strong young men, strong people of society, impacting the next generation. This is what Courtney Upshaw is doing, taking a part and being a volunteer coach at UAB. Also, big ups to former Crimson Tide linebacker Reuben Foster, who seems to be getting everything back on track. He did not play last year for the Washington football team due to an injury. He's finally back healthy, finally back at 100%. He's been taken off the PUP list. That's the physically unable to perform list. Washington football team believes he's going to be good, prepared, ready to go, disciplined, and become one of the best linebackers in the league. So definitely support is with Reuben Foster as he looks to really get this thing jump-started in the NFL with the Washington football team. But we take another break here on the show. Upon our return here, I'm going to dive into more updates that have come from the Alabama football preseason practice. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned right after this.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to stsfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to stsfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
All right, Tide Nation, Monday. You are rocking and rolling on the hottest show on the streets. Number one form for Crimson Tide football news, notes, information in my own words with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And we appreciate every last one of you for lighting the phone lines up, lighting the YouTube chat line up, bringing your thoughts, your concerns, your questions. Tide Nation, it is you. You make football what it is. You make the program what it is. So we appreciate you guys for letting your voice be heard here on the show. As always, be sure to give a thumbs up, give a like on the show, and hit that subscribe button. Turn all of those notifications on. That way you can have the best analysis on your Crimson Tide. But we're going to look at, especially if we can have this college football season, the SEC, in full fight for it, we're going to go into or continue the conversation of, Alabama players that are standing out. Alabama players that have stepped up, Alabama players that have really taken those steps forward in the preseason practice program here for the Tide as it continues with walkthrough, 7-on-7, 11-on-11, offense versus defense drills, strength training, conditioning training, team meetings, all that good stuff. We're going to get back into the guys that have been stepping up and what I've been told from respectable, credible inside people when you talk Alabama football. So the first name that was brought up to me that has really, really excited people, in the program, running back Trey Sanders. Running back Trey Sanders has been cutting up in the preseason practice program. What I've heard is, Stephen, it's not just his ability to run in between the tackles. It's not just the power, Stephen. It's the speed. It's the vision to bounce plays outside. It's the pass catching ability out the backfield. He can do so many things, Stephen. He is so diverse. He is so versatile. And I remember my NFL comp for Trey Sanders was Ezekiel Elliott / Alvin Kamara. He's got the body type of Zeke Elliott, but he's got the playmaking abilities of one Alvin Kamara. And while Alabama is going to look to play both Brian Robinson Jr. and Trey Sanders this year, both will play, both have versatility, both have diversity in their game. But when you talk to players within the program, and myself discussing this with well-acquainted, well-immersed people inside the program, there's just you can't turn your face from Trey Sanders. You can't look away from Trey Sanders. You can't take your finger off Trey Sanders. There is something about this guy. Alabama's got to have him on the field. Got to put him on the field. He, with Najee Harris, you're talking about a bona fide 1-2 punch in the backfield for the SEC in terms of this Crimson Tide program. And having those two together, it would be like Glenn Coffey and Mark Ingram was. It would be like Ingram, Trent Richardson. It would be like, TJ Yeldon, Derrick Henry. It would be like those backfields in years past where one guy really complemented the other extremely well. So the first guy that people excited about, have been talking to me about, Trey Sanders, got to get him on the field. The next tandem of guys that have really done well here in the practice program, the duo of Mac Jones and Landon Dickerson. Mac Jones is now officially 6'3", 215 pounds. For the longest of time, he was listed at 6'2", 205 according to RollTide.com. Mac 10, the semi-automatic assault rifle, he is now 6'3", 215 pounds. He's grown an inch, and he's got the size now of a prototypical quarterback. What I've heard, Mac Jones, first guy in the facility, last guy to leave. He has been helping out with Bryce Young and Paul Tyson, getting them to understand the system even more. But Mac Jones, the leader on offense, he is one of the two offensive leaders. He's been vocal. He's been speaking. He's been doing it with his play. He's been doing it with his reads, with his throws, with his progressions, with him spending time with these wide receivers. Mac Jones is QB1. This entire preseason practice program, I've been told, this young man, QB1, everybody is all in on him taking this team and winning a national championship. In terms of Landon Dickerson, he's been the biggest vocal leader on the offensive line. And I've mentioned this before. Alabama fans, y'all have had no issues with Landon Dickerson. You love his size, 6'6", 306 pounds. You love his tenacity. You love his physicality. You love his toughness. You love his work ethic. You love his ability to not allow people to out-hustle him. The only issue with Dickerson was, there were times where he would get into kind of a little bit of a scuffle or two after the end of the whistle. If he, pipes that down a little bit, you're fine with him. But overall, I kind of had the idea that Dickerson would be the leader in that room in terms of the offensive line, just due to, this young man, he wants it. And he wants it more than anybody and everybody else. He's gotten the speed down, working with Coach, Dr. Matt Ray. He's already a guy that wants to get his hands on you and move you off the football. So Mac Jones, Landon Dickerson, the two leaders offensively in this practice program. The next wave of guys that have been impressive, how about the duo on defense of Dylan Moses and Christian Barmore? Dylan Moses has been a stud throughout the program. Everybody pretty much knows it. People already have kind of figured that out. He's been the guy that's been the communications leader throughout the time here in this program. But when I heard about Christian Barmore, I heard, this is what one source in particular told me. He said, Steven, do you want to know the definition of a bad man? Do you want to really know the definition of a bad man? It's Christian Barmore. He said, dude, people compare him to A'Shawn Robinson and Quinnen Williams. He's got more burst than Quinnen. He's got more edge than A'Shawn. Christian Barmore has an edge to him. I've never seen this before. When the ball is snapped, he is busting through the line every single time, laying guys on their face. I've been told, Steven, The SEC is not going to be able to contain this man. College football is not going to be able to hold. It's like that song Rick Ross, these foes can't hold me back. Like, they're not going to be able to hold Barmore back. They're not going to be able to do it, Steven. He's got an edge like nobody's business. And on top of that, Steven, he has learned how to play in his gap. He has learned how to play in his zone. He has learned how to play his assignment. Steven, they're not going to hold Barmore this year. So Christian Barmore, Dylan Moses, the two duos, the communicator and the bad man are doing its thing on defense. And then the last wave of people here and have been really impressive. You got to look at the secondary. And there are a lot of moving parts to this Alabama secondary. But what I've been told is when the tide comes out and it's base 3-4 linemen in the secondary, you look for your corners, Josh Joe, Patrick Surtain II, your safeties, Jordan Battle and Daniel Wright. Now, for guys that will come off the bench, you look at Marcus Banks has really come on. Marcus Banks out of Texas, redshirt freshman from Texas, has really come on here at one of the two corner spots, so he'll come off the bench. Well, he's getting some work in. And then you got Jaquez Robinson, who came in during the Citrus Bowl prep to end last year for the Tide. He's been getting some work in, so he'll play some at corner. At that star position, it is Jalen Armour-Davis and true freshman Brian Branch battling for position. I told you guys, if there was a freshman that can infiltrate the secondary and offset some pieces, it would be Brian Branch. And he has been turning heads this offseason during the preseason practice program. He's pushing Jalen Armour-Davis for an opportunity to start at that nickel. That being the star role, and then last but not least, DeMarco Helms will get that opportunity there, or looks to get the opportunity there in the dime package. But people, you want the best in news, notes, information, and coverage on your Crimson Tide. It's simple and easy to do. You get this by downloading the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. You can get the app from the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you've got the Android phone. For your audio listening needs, we have you on Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, Overcast.fm, or iHeartRadio. We have you covered. If the good and gracious Lord sees fit, I'll be back on Wednesday, continuing the conversation that is Tide football. As always, Bama fans, be sure to subscribe to Touchdown Alabama Magazine. You go to touchdownalabama.com, click join, be a part of our family, our community, as we're breaking down Tide football from all angles. Just $5.95 a month. You get the latest in Tide information. You get the annual print magazine. You get the most exceptional recruiting news from our own Justin Smith. What are you waiting for? Go to touchdownalabama.com, click join, be a part of the family. Also, you can purchase individual copies of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, have those sent to your door. Link will be found in the description. But until next time, folks, husbands love your wives. Wives appreciate, value those husbands. Children, be sure to do those things legitimately now to not be bored. Get you those 3 hearty meals a day, those 3 great laughs a day. Protect yourself, protect the loved ones around you. Until next time, folks, spit in my own words.